Hello friends! Masks are powerful tools in digital art, and they are an essential way to level up your artwork and drawing process. There are multiple ways to use masks in Procreate, and in this video, I'm going to show you how. I'm going to enhance this simple illustration using Alpha Lock, clipping masks, and layer masks to show you how each of these tools work. Before we dive in, I'd love if you'd like, comment, subscribe, and watch till the very end because it really helps the channel. First, let's take a look at Alpha Lock. Here's our illustration, and as you can see, the flowers, vase, and leaves are on separate layers. We're going to work on the flowers layer, so I'm going to turn the other two layers off for now. Right now, there's just very basic flat color on the artwork, so we're going to add some shading and texture to the flowers with the help of Alpha Lock. To turn on Alpha Lock, I'm going to go to the flower layer, tap on that layer, and then tap Alpha Lock. You'll see a checkered background on that layer when Alpha Lock is turned on. To turn it off, just tap on Alpha Lock again. You can also swipe right with 2 fingers to turn Alpha Lock on, and swipe right again with 2 fingers to turn it off. So with Alpha Lock on, you're basically creating a mask around all the shapes that already exist on that layer. So in this case, any marks that I make will only show up on the pink flowers. All of the negative space on the rest of this layer is essentially a mask, so I can no longer draw beyond the flower shapes. By the way, the texture brush I'm using is called Trevelin, and it's in the pastel set of the Procreate library. You can watch the linked video for a full demo of this brush. So as you can see, Alpha Lock is great for quickly adding texture or shading in this way, because you can draw up to the edge without worrying about drawing outside the lines. The one thing you have to consider is that you are drawing directly on your original layer. So if you make a mistake or you want to change the color or texture, you can't erase because you'll be erasing the flower shapes. Let's say I added too much texture to one of the flowers. Since I can't erase, I'll need to switch back to the lighter pink, then paint over the texture with the original color. Since Alpha Lock is on, everything I paint will be locked to that shape. There's also the option to quickly change the color of everything on this layer. So when Alpha Lock is turned on, you can simply tap on the layer, then tap Fill Layer. And as you can see, everything's reverted back to the flat color. This technique also comes in handy if you want to quickly test out different colors. First, change the swatch color. Then you can tap the layer, then tap Fill Layer. Just remember, you can only do this if Alpha Lock is turned on. All right, I'm just going to undo all those changes to get back to the texture I added. And I also want to add lines to each of the leaves. I've turned on Alpha Lock on the leaf layer. And again, you can see that even if I draw beyond the leaf shape, the lines will only be visible within that shape. It's as if there's masking tape covering the rest of the canvas. Next, we're going to take a look at clipping masks. Clipping masks basically do the same thing that Alpha Lock does, except it does it in a non-destructive way, meaning that your original shape won't be affected by the changes you make. I've turned off the flower and leaf layers, and I'm going to add a bit of detail to the vase. To create the clipping mask, I'm going to select the vase layer, create a new layer right above it, tap that layer, then tap Clipping Mask. As you can see, a small arrow has appeared, pointing down to the vase layer. This means that everything I draw on this new layer will be locked to the vase shape below. Remember how I added shading to the edge of the flowers? I can do the same here, and as you can see, with the clipping mask on, I can get right up to the edge of the shape without worrying about drawing outside the lines. If I turn the clipping mask off, you can see that I've drawn well past the vase shape and it looks a little crazy. When I turn it back on, everything is clipped neatly to fit the shape of the vase. Now if I turn off the layer with the clipping mask, you can see that the vase shape is still intact and it has not been affected by the changes I made. Aside from being a non-destructive option, the other great thing about clipping masks is that you can add multiple clipping masks to the same shape. Let's say we now want to add stripes to the vase. If you select the vase layer, create a new layer above it, that new layer automatically becomes a clipping mask. So on this new layer, I can add a few simple stripes, or add a few more shapes and turn it into a pattern. By the way, I'm using the Liffey brush here, which is in the pen set of the Procreate library. You can watch the linked video for a full brush demo. If I want to add another color to the pattern, I could create another clipping mask layer just for that color. Any new layers you add below that first clipping mask layer will automatically be a clipping mask as well. So if I wanted to, I can play around with different colors for that part of the pattern. Again, the benefit here is that you're keeping things separate, so you have the flexibility to make changes to each layer without affecting all the others. Here's another example. The shadow on the first clipping mask layer is completely solid and you can't see the stripes. Since everything is on a separate layer, I can go to that layer and reduce the opacity of the shadow to about 50%. Now we can see the stripes below, and they will also appear a bit darker in the shadow areas, which helps to elevate the look of the illustration. There's no set limit to the number of clipping mask layers you can stack. The only limitation is how many layers you have available on the canvas itself. And this is the main downside of using clipping masks. They can quickly eat up your layers. If your iPad has lots of storage and you have hundreds of layers available, it's not too much of a problem. But if the layer limit on your canvas is low, you'll have to be mindful of how many layers you use. Of course, you can always pinch the clipping masks together to merge them down to one layer. But remember, that will mean that you no longer have the flexibility to easily make changes. Lastly, we're going to take a look at layer masks. With all the layers turned on, you can see that the ends of these flower stems are visible, but I want them to look like they're coming out of the vase, not sitting in front of it. There are occasions when dragging the layer to the bottom of the stack would be the quick and easy solution, but I don't want the flowers to be hidden behind the leaves. You could also just move the flower layer so it's above the leaf layer so that the flowers aren't hidden, and that would be a perfectly acceptable option as well. But what if we want some flowers to appear in front of the leaves while other flowers are hidden behind them? A layer mask will give us that flexibility. First, I'm going to drag the flower layer back to the top of the stack. Oh, here's a bonus tip. When I drag that flower layer back to the top, it automatically became part of the stack of clipping masks. If that happens, you can just tap on the layer and turn the clipping mask off to release it. Now, to avoid this from happening, it's helpful to group your clipping mask layers together to keep them separate. Tap on the first layer of the stack of clipping masks, then swipe right on each layer until you get to your original shape. Then tap Group, and that'll put them all in a folder. Tap on the little arrow to close that folder. Now, when you move any of the other layers around, they're less likely to get added to that stack of clipping masks. Okay, back to the layer mask. We've got the layer with the flowers at the top, and what we want to do is mask or hide some parts of the flowers. What a layer mask does is it allows you to hide or reveal elements on a layer without permanently deleting anything. So let's tap on that layer, then tap Mask. You'll see a new layer show up above, and it's titled Layer Mask, and it's highlighted in dark blue, while the flower layer is highlighted in light blue. The current active layer will be in the dark blue. When the layer mask is the active layer, you'll notice that the color swatch automatically changes to black. And this is because you can only draw in grayscale on a layer mask. Anything you color in black will be hidden, and if you color over the area in white, it will be revealed again. You can also color in various shades of gray to achieve various levels of opacity, but we'll just stick with black and white for now. Make sure the layer mask is activated so it's highlighted in the dark blue, and your swatch color is black. Now I can hide the ends of those stems. Now I can hide some parts of the flowers so it looks like they're tucked behind some of the leaves. If you've hidden too much, you can switch to the white to reveal those areas again. All right, I think that helps things look a little more dynamic. Now, if you turn the layer mask off, we can see that everything is still there and we haven't actually erased anything, which is the beauty of working with a layer mask. It's another non-destructive way to alter your artwork. I hope you found these tips helpful and you now feel confident enough to use these different masking techniques in your art. For more Procreate tips and tricks, there's a link to the playlist in the description. And if you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.